You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
Welcome to T-Minus Deep Space from N2K Networks. I'm Maria Varmazis, host of the T-Minus Space Daily podcast. And Deep Space includes extended interviews and bonus content for a deeper look into some of the topics that we cover on our daily program. In the aftermath of the Challenger STS-51L tragedy, the crew's families came together, firmly committed to carrying on the spirit of their loved ones by continuing their education mission. In April 1986, these families created the Challenger Center for Space Science Education. And the family's vision was to create a place that would inspire children, where students could conduct experiments, collaborate to solve problems, and immerse themselves in space-like surroundings. Their goal was to spark an interest and joy in STEM. And that spark could change the trajectory of children's futures. To date, Challenger Center has reached more than 6 million students globally and continues to inspire hundreds of thousands of students every year.
My name is Kirsten Hibbard, and I'm the Executive Director at the Challenger Learning Center of Maine. And we're located up in beautiful Bangor, Maine. And we're one of actually many U.S. Challenger Learning Centers available to students. And at our centers, we run virtual and in-person NASA-like mission simulations. So students get to come in as if they work as mission controllers and astronauts and do missions that really replicate missions that have happened at NASA or will happen. I mean, great missions like going back to the moon, going to Mars, or even collecting samples from a comet.
Okay, that's awesome. That is so cool. I'm pretty sure I went to a Challenger Center when I was a kid at some point because I remember doing something like, and I mean, I'm not a spring chicken, so this was probably when they were very new. But yeah, that is so cool and so fun. Who wouldn't love doing something like that? Okay, but I'm a space nerd, so of course I think that. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to be talking to you. Not just about the Challenger Learning Centers, but also specifically yours, the Challenger Learning Center of Maine. So as you mentioned, there are a lot of Challenger Learning Centers across the country. Listeners may not be aware of exactly how many. Could you set us as the stage for us, please?
Yeah, so Challenger Center headquarters is in D.C., but, we always call them kind of the HQ or the mothership, and they really help centers. There are 35 centers all over the U.S. in lots and lots of different states. There are a couple with 2 in one state, but ours, for example, we're kind of located centrally in Maine, and so we serve all of Maine, literally all 16 counties of Maine, because the goal of Challenger Centers really is to create STEM-inspiring opportunities. So we're located in different types of situations. So some centers are part of college campuses, some are part of science museums. We're a standalone center, but it really is unique to different communities across the U.S.
That's cool that they're sort of tailored to the different communities they're in, because I didn't know. I'm learning so much today. This is so neat, because as I said, I remember the one that I went to as a kid in Framingham, Mass., and that was part of a college campus. But so yours is a standalone in Maine. So tell me a bit about yours.
Yeah, so this upcoming March will be our 20th anniversary. And
hey, congrats.
Yay! We were chosen.
That's huge.
Big. And it really is amazing then how many students we've served, and, students within their own professional timeline, are now adults for some of the first students. But we were started in Bangor, Maine, really trying to be central. We're a very large rural state. So saying, where can we put our center so that students from the far corners right on that Canadian border could come down and visit us and, really for it be an opportunity to kind of go to this off-site laboratory, not off Earth, but off-site.
Maybe one day.
But it's just amazing that we have students come, but for rural students, it really is a big deal to come on a field trip, get out of their classroom. So our center, if people can envision it, if they walk into a building that, has these great murals and images from all kinds of missions, but then there are rooms that really are modeled after NASA's mission control rooms. And we have, what is it, inside of a spacecraft? And then we call it our space laboratory, almost really like the inside of what would be a space station. And we have a great software that can really queue up different mission objectives for students, for older students, younger students, and we serve K-12, but our primary audience is 5th through 8th graders. Those middle schoolers, we want to have a really great positive experience around STEM. And we really do that in a role-playing scenario.
Yeah, and that's hot right now. So that's like everybody's in the D&D, so you can do D&D with space.
Yeah.
I mean, also, what a great way to learn, though. And again, I'm going to just not reminisce too much about my experience, but I remember it was super fun. But a kid walks in, they've been brought in on a field trip. Maybe they're like, I'm not super into sciencey stuff. Like, what is their day like? How do you sort of get that sparkle to happen of like connection?
Yeah. So a really wonderful connection is we work really closely with the educators before the students even get here. Sometimes students will fill out a job application. So like a middle schooler has not filled out a job application, but it gets them thinking about, okay, this is skills that I have or things I would need. And then they actually rank. These are jobs I think I want to try. And that educator, he or she is the key because they will push a student, say, you should try that. You should try robotics. You should try it. Or did you know there's a job about space weather? Or man, let's do navigation, engineering, I'm medical team. And so a student then, once they come in, they've been assigned to a job team in mission control or as an astronaut, and we welcome them. They have a crew manifest. And then they even get a job badge, like a real job badge. You'd scan to enter your job. And from that point on, they're that STEM professional. In fact, we call them by their job title, not by their name. So they are truly that job title. We go over their mission objectives and say, as a navigator today, these are your responsibilities. Or as a med team, or as the aero engineering team. And they
God,
really
sweating.
is like,
I'm a little nervous.
Well, a middle schooler, they'll be like, you trust me? And we're like, it's basically handing the keys to the car and saying, you're going to drive today, but I have the confidence that you can do this. You're going to do it well. And we're going to have a great mission today.
I believe you when you say that. I'm like, yes, I am. All right. So I'm very glad that you do this for a living. So I'm like, I'm with you. I'm ready to do this now.
It's an intense mission. It's for 2.5 hours. So in that mission, they're really from top to bottom going through their mission objectives. And it really is about, those science objectives of while we're on the mission, we want to gain this knowledge, do these experiments so we can learn and gain knowledge about living off Earth and how we can go deeper into space. But Maria, halfway through, the software, we always make it so something goes not as planned, as in true life.
Uh-huh.
So they have to do that classic risk assessment. We want to get these science projects done, but we want to keep the crew safe. And they have to decide as a team. We don't let their educators, our staff, they get to decide how are we going to move forward with this mission. And so, man, it's great. It's intense. It's an intense 2.5 hours, but at the end, wow, how powerful when they have had control and have had a great mission. Like, man, they own that success. And there are jobs like communication. We also say that, you don't have to be an astronaut. There's actually very few astronauts. There's all these jobs, 40,000 jobs just at NASA, that are supporting these missions. We need communication specialists. We need reporters to tell these stories. So it's for those students that don't think STEM is their space, it's even saying, but did you like this? There is a place for you here, and if this brought you joy, you can share that and be a part of it. So yeah, breaking down all those barriers.
We'll be right back. That is so important. And I love hearing you say that because that is as I've said many times, I didn't need much convincing. I was not the kid who needed to be told, hey, space is for you. I was like, I want to go, just send me. But it's for many other people who are, for kids who are going, I don't even know if science is for me. I don't even know if what does this mean for me? I don't see a path. I don't have any interest. And getting that aha, this is actually something cool that maybe is attainable, not knowing that there's a way in is life-changing. It's really life-changing. And I know that for your center, especially in Maine, you guys have a specific mission for sort of raising people up, specifically in Maine, and sort of encouraging people to go more into higher education. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So while we focus on the mission and mission objectives, actually during mid-mission and the post-mission, it's really talking about STEM careers. And this is where we really highlight even local companies, as part of the STEM pipeline of saying, you can live and work in Maine. And there are these colleges and universities right here in Maine, some right down the road, where you can actually get this degree. But you really want to start thinking about a 2-4-year degree, extended degrees, and they can be all different pathways. And, and we highlight some of those. An easy one for us is we have a wonderful Maine astronaut, and a retired Maine astronaut that had very different professional journeys. And it was not always a yes, multiple applications even to become an astronaut. So saying that if the attitude is there, if the work is there, and if you want to be a part of this, you can, and then just hear the ways to connect those dots. But saying that with middle schoolers, not starting in high school, really saying, all right, middle schoolers, let's talk about this now and think about this now for you. And in a kind of a newer term that, we have is that STEM self-efficacy. It's an individual belief, right, of positive experience, so that person, has control over their success in STEM, that they can do it, that I could do this in STEM. Maybe I don't want to, but I had a great experience. So I could, And a neat thing too about our state is we've been growing leaps and bounds about reaching rural students. I mean, we have schools that their whole 6th grade is 15 students. It's 15. In fact, we connected with a one-room schoolhouse in Whiting, Maine.
Oh, bless it.
So there are 2 classrooms in their whole school. One of them is for middle school, 6th through 8th grade. Very small, 10 students or less. But the neat thing is, if they can't come to us for geographic barriers, we actually are reaching them with virtual missions. So same concept. From their own classroom, their one-to-one devices, their mission controllers were at the front of the room in those smart boards and blue suits, helping control the software. But same idea. They have a positive experience about a Mars mission or moon mission, talking about STEM careers, even in a rural setting. Because to us, whether you're a school of 15 students or 300, we want to connect with students and really kind of create equity with STEM experiences.
You've got to have so many stories of kids who walked in there going, oh, I don't want to be an astronaut, so why am I here? And then walked out going, I didn't even know I could do X or you must have so many. Any you want to share? Because I'm so curious.
Well, and it's neat too. So traditionally it's math or science teachers that come, but sometimes, any teacher really is helping create this experience. And it's small connections to large connections. So I always like to peek in and pop in at missions. And so there was a navigation station, right? Classic, trying to find the exact coordinates for this comet. And the student, and we tell the teachers, just you're an observer, right? Let the students do this. This student, and the teacher's kind of keeping an eye, making sure he's behaved, but he looks up and goes, I'm using XY coordinates. We just did this in class. I'm using this here. This is real life. And the teacher's like, yes. And so of course, those great things, oh yes, this is applicable to life, but he was like, I learned this and I can do this here. Oh, yeah. And then once I do this, then I'm in charge of throttle and touchdown, So then it's like, oh, this is even more fun, right? And I knew that small part to do this job. Maybe I could do this job in the future. I mean, powerful.
Really powerful. I could honestly, and I'm not exaggerating, I could listen to stories like that all day because they make me so happy. I came from a family, my dad was a physics guy, very, very sciencey. And I took for granted how much that exposure meant that I saw a realistic path for certain ways into science, and how much if you don't have that, it can seem so abstract. And so like, what is this for? I don't get it. What's this mean to me? But when you have these experiences like at your center, like I'm sorry, I'm being very cliche, but it really can change lives. And I just really admire what you do. So
Well, I have one more good example of that, if that's okay. 20% of our business, I mean, not to get like, I love data, so that's why it's just like 20%, 20% of our business is actually going off site. We actually found from pre-COVID, we were like, oh, just come to our center, right? But, being a STEM informal education institution, COVID made us push beyond our walls virtually, but really said, we're going to meet the students, educators where they're at. So 20% of the time, we will take an activity and travel to the school, and it always has that STEM space, fun, hands-on element. But something really neat that we've also tried to add is parents, guardians, foster families, right? All those family units, they're actually a strong part of supporting a student should they get excited about STEM. And so it's breaking down the stigma of STEM for parents and saying, maybe you think it's scary or like, oh, math is hard or science isn't my thing. But so we've tended to stay in those communities into the evening and support what we call like family STEM nights, right? So saying to a parent, come on down, come be a part of this and do these stations, do these hands-on activities with your students, get excited, share that excitement with your students so that you can be the supporter should they choose that they want to try this too. So I think it's breaking down, barriers for students and creating that positive space for a supporting parent, family too.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times where it's like, you've got a kid who's really bright and very interested in science, but you, mom or dad, or both, no clue about any of this. And it's not a ding on you. It's just not who you are. And you're going, I don't even know where to start. So that's very empowering for the parent. What a wonderful thing to be doing. You were talking about something so important that I know many in our audience are really interested in about sort of, we don't need to be sold on how cool space is and how important STEM is for the most part. But there are a lot of kids that maybe we aren't reaching that we should, or maybe our messaging is not effective. There's a lot of questions about what are we doing maybe that we're not doing as well as we could be, or what should we be doing better from your perspective, from someone who's working with kids all the time, like what can we do more effectively to reach kids?
I love that question. In fact, I'm glad you asked, and I hope more people ask. And I have a short, quick, you could do this immediately within a month answer and long term. So my short answer is, all right, you are a STEM professional. You love space. You can give your time as easy as, I was just at a conference with teachers, and they're who we work with the most. And they said, we just want to connect with professionals and really highlight them, as, hey, talk about your career, talk about your pathway to that career, talk about, most importantly, your passion, right? So if you're that engineer, usually in your cubicle working away, you know what? Take an hour out of your time, reach out to your local school, say, I'd love to Zoom. You don't even have to go into the classroom, right? For 45 minutes of a Zoom session, there are teachers that want to connect you with the students to learn about you, your profession, that pathway. And then I think the bigger connection is you might be a leader within your business. Reach out to your school districts and say, hey, we'd like to support your schools or programs in these ways. They have great STEM programs. And many times if those local businesses, those job supporters, right, of their communities, connect with the education world, those educators still help get you connected. And then there are great informal education institutions like the Challenger Centers, other ones, great museums, that can help create those pathways to really kind of that trifecta of business and education and informal education to support students. So really lots of great ways, but could be as started as reaching out to that one educator in your community.
And that's a very actionable thing for people. So people get on it. You've heard it. You've heard the advice. Go for it. That's very, very doable. So I know someone's listening in a cubicle right now going, yeah. No, you can do that. You can do this. Anything you wanted to sort of conclude with? Anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to mention? I want to sort of give you the floor to address it.
I love follow-up information. I think a big thing is saying, wow, Challenger sounds great. How can I connect? So challenger.org, again, is our organization where you can look up, see if there's a Challenger Center near you. And if there's not, Challenger centers like Maine connect virtually with centers all over the U.S. and actually internationally. So there's really great tools in place to get connected. So challenger.org has great information. And then locally for our own center, astronaut.org tells you even more about our center here in Maine. And again, please reach out. Even if you're just kind of interested, reach out. We want to help connect as a person, as a listener interested in the space community, because we are too.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad we were able to connect. This was a joy. Thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it. That's it for T-Minus Deep Space for December the 23rd, 2023. T-Minus will be taking a break from our daily show for the holiday week, and we'll be sharing some of the best of shows from interviews that we've conducted this year. We'll be back to our daily intelligence briefings on January 2nd, 2024. In the meantime, we'd love to know what you think of this podcast. You can email us at space@n2k.com or submit the survey in the show notes. Your feedback ensures that we deliver the information that keeps you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. This episode was produced by Alice Carruth, mixing by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jen Iben. Our VP is Brandon Karpf. And I'm Maria Varmazis. Thanks for listening, and have a happy new year.